Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 47 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is one of those you definitely have heard of this group of fish. In fact, you might even call them a grouper. Wow, that was a bad joke. Today we are going to be talking about the giant grouper. Giant grouper, or scientific name Epinophilus lanceolatus. Again, that is Epinophilus lanceolatus. This is not to be confused with the Goliath grouper. To kind of get used interchangeably, but they are actually separate species. Groupers are part of the family Serranidae, which also includes sea basses, all the other groupers. It's a massive family. I want to say there's like 400 genera in there. It's a mind-bogglingly large number of fish in that family. Some other common names for the giant grouper is the Queensland Grouper, the brindle grouper, or the mottled brown sea bass. So, go. If you haven't heard of giant grouper, you probably heard of the Queensland Grouper. Queensland Grouper is probably the most common. However, there is another common name that you're going to probably recognize if you've been in the aquarium trade. It has a very wide Indo-Pacific distribution, so the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean distribution. In fact, it's the most widely distributed species of grouper in the world. It is found from the east coast of Africa to Hawaii, and it's also found as far north as Japan and as far south as Australia. So you think, east coast of Africa to Hawaii, Japan to Australia. That is an extremely large distribution. Now, these are found primarily in shallower waters, but they can also be found relatively deep. They've been basically found everywhere from 1 meter deep to 100 meter deep, or 3 feet to 330 feet. Basically, anywhere in that region they've been found, but they have been primarily associated with in fact, it's the largest known bony fish found on the reef, which that's pretty interesting. It's not the largest fish because some of the sharks could be coming through the reefs, which the sharks are bigger, could be bigger than the giant grouper, but it's the largest bony fish that it has a skeleton. But it does seem that most of the fish found in the center of the reef, those are your younger ones, whereas the adults are found in caves and wrecks and on the edges of the reefs, not right in the middle like the juveniles would be found trying to hide from predators. The adults are very solitary, so they find a cave, they kind of stick with it. These things don't really move around much. As you can tell from the previous picture and this picture, they have a pretty robust body. These guys are pretty thick in the middle. Basically, they look like a powerhouse, and yeah, we're gonna get into the size, but they are thick and they are heavy, with a very, very big mouth. In fact, this mouth has rows of extremely sharp teeth. So, there you go. They do have spines in the dorsal fin. If you've ever fished for largemouth bass or sunfish, they have spines in the dorsal fin, especially part of the dorsal. These actually do have spines there. There are 11 spines, and I believe there are 3 spines in the fin. So the bottom fin, whereas most of your bass, I don't think they have any sort of that spines in there, just like a slightly hardening. Now they do have a rounded caudal fin, which, as we discussed before, the fin shapes, usually if it's a rounded sort of caudal fin, that means that they're not very active movers. It's not necessarily the case. I'm not going to say these things they're just sluggish. These are not built for speed. If you can look at this fish, you don't look at this fish and you say, oh, that's a speed demon. You know, you look at a tuna and you're like, you know, flicking through the water, flickety flick, woo, fast. This thing is more like a ink, like, I'm gonna go that direction. And if something gets in my way, I'll open my mouth, eat it. That's what it seems like, but that's not actually. We'll get into their food. And now, juveniles. Juveniles are very beautiful. Juveniles are yellow with wide, dark, irregular bars and spots on their fins. And don't worry, I have a picture. Now, the other common name for giant grouper, Bumblebee grouper. This is a picture done by Jay Keenan. Beautiful picture, best one I can find of a Bumblebee grouper. These are available in the aquarium trade. Do not get it. Don't get it. It's pretty. I know. It's very pretty. Don't get it unless you realize that, hey, this will grow into this and this. Don't get this. You're not prepared to take care of this. And if I promise you, most people at home not prepared to take care of this. So, here you go. Spotted, pretty, they're beautiful. You can buy them for about $200. That's relatively cheap. Again, don't get it because these things get big. How big do they get? Well, the maximum recorded length of a giant grouper is 270 centimeters, which is about 110 inches. They're more common at 180 centimeters, which is 71 inches. Still, how many people in their home can take care of the average size fish, which is, 180, that's 1.8 meters, 71 inches, that would be 6 feet long. How many of you can take a normal 6-foot fish that weighs, and here's the thing, maximum published weight, 400 kilograms, 880 pounds. That's the maximum recorded weight. That means you're probably looking at a 600-pound fish. Can you take care of an aquarium? No. Yes, Tavi, you can eat it when it gets too big. However, most people can't bring themselves to eat their aquarium pets. So, anyway, don't do it. Also, probably not. These probably things are there. But these things love to eat lobsters and crabs. In the wild, that's what their primary diet is. Chances are in the aquariums, people will be able to take care of them they probably take to processed food quite a bit. But something interesting, they have this color pattern. That color pattern can kind of consist into adulthood. If you look here, this is probably what you would call a young adult or a teenage grouper, still fairly big, but it can still maintain some of this color pattern. It's kind of pretty. So, just so you're interested. Now, one of the interesting facts, we kind of have two that these are protogynous hermaphrodites, by the way. So that means that a protogynous hermaphrodite is that most of these fish, if not all of them, are born female, and some of them will develop into males. But something that's really interesting about these are a diandric protogynous hermaphrodite, meaning that some of the males will actually develop from reproductively functional females. So basically, you'll have a sexually mature female that may have even laid some eggs, and she will then transition and become a male. Whereas other males can mature with never going through a phase as female. So you have kind of three different ways. So some are born male. There are some that are born male. Then there are some that transition from female to male before the female becomes sexually mature. And then you have some males develop after they are reproductively functional female. So just little interesting thing. These things over there. Now, they do not go back, females to males. Seems like it is a one way. But also, Tommy, just so you know, your question before, can you eat it? By the way, I meant to mention this earlier. These are a very highly valued food. These are heavily sought after. They're very easy to catch, which is one of the reasons why these are kind of in trouble. They're very easy targets for spear fishermen and other fishermen because they're very slow moving. They're very inquisitive, meaning that they will come up to scuba divers and be like, hey, what's going on? Just checking you out. Meaning that spear fishermen just basically can shoot them point blank. There's not much sport fishing for. But the interesting fact about this fish species that we're gonna end the video on, it's not really about the species themselves. It's about a fish, a particular fish from there. And I'm going to be talking about Bubba the giant grouper. Bubba was donated to the Shed Aquarium in Chicago in 1987. Obviously, being relatively young, he was female at the time and then changed to male in the mid-1990s. Then in 2001, he grew an unusual growth on his forehead. Unusual growth, it was actually a tumor. Sad. But the aquarium hired vets to come out and actually they did both surgery and chemotherapy, both in 2001 and when the tumor grew back in 2003. So the interesting thing about this is this was the first fish to undergo chemotherapy successfully, I might add. So that's just really neat, that in the early 2000s, this was the first fish to ever undergo chemotherapy. That made Bubba and the aquarium very popular with cancer survivors, especially children cancer survivors. In fact, he got so popular that the Hope Children's Hospital in Illinois recognized Bubba with a commemorative tile in the oncology ward. There you go. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. And I hope, again, if I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you do, I'd really appreciate it. And I hope to see you again. Love reading all the comments. Keep them coming. Take care of yourselves again.